Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button before you leave, or leaving a comment, those things really help to get my channel promoted. I appreciate it. Today I'm going to do three pieces, all pendants, and they're going to be three different horse-themed items. So I'm going to be doing kind of a horseshoe pendant with a stone in the middle, and then I'm going to do a stirrup pendant, and then I'm going to do one that looks like a kind of a wire outline of a horse. So I'll show you those in a minute. Before we get started, I wanted to thank my YouTube subscribers. We just passed 6,200 and it's growing quickly, so thank you guys for that. I appreciate your support and your kind words and your donations. I wanted to thank my Patreon members. That's a really nice community we have going over there. I'm enjoying a lot of the discourse that happens on Discord over there, as well as the really pretty things that they post, and chatting with each other about jewelry. That's really nice. So thank you guys for all your support over there. With all that being said, let's get started on these projects. Okay, let's see what I drew up in my little design idea book. I like these because it caused me to start drawing out my ideas beforehand, which has improved my outcome. I really like these ones because they have kind of a dot matrix on them, so it helps me to keep things in proportion. So, speaking of which, I drew this horseshoe, not the proportions that I like, but it's the basic idea anyway. So here's the first project we're going to do is a horseshoe that hangs on a chain and has a little piece of turquoise hanging from a rabbit ear bail in here. And I'm gonna do the bottom part of the horseshoe and then put two edge pieces, one on the inside, one on the outside. Add this and these vertical pieces, a few little tiny balls in the cavity in there, and then we'll add a bail on the back. Second one I think should be a little quicker. I'm going to use some pattern wire that's got some kind of westerny looking pattern on the outside of it, which I actually soldered to a piece of 18 gauge to thicken the overall piece. Here's the kind of fancy pattern. But I made it thicker this way because I wanted this edge to have some depth to it. And then we'll add a little thing on the bottom there, a thing on the top, and then another different pattern wire to make the bail. I think this one shouldn't take too long. This one may take a little while. Last one is going to be, this is number 3. 2, 3. I've got a 14 gauge ring here that I made in advance. There. And so I'm going to try and put together a horse portrait in there, and I found one online that was a line art drawing. You can check out a lot of line art there and find some pretty cool stuff. But I'm going to piece this together with 18 gauge wire and flatten parts of it to give it some width and stuff in different areas. I may use a silver ball right here and probably for his nostril as well, but I may change, this hair looks a little weird up here, so I may change his hair. I am not a horse owner, although I have friends who have horses, so hopefully I get this right. We'll see. So I think we're going to start with a horseshoe, and in advance, since we're doing 3 projects, it's going to take a little while, especially this one. I took some 12 gauge square and I rolled it through a rolling mill. I was going to do it straight, but then I thought it's going to be really hard to bend that way, so I'm going to do it while it's already shaped into a horseshoe shape. So I rolled it through till it was kind of flattish. And then I also rolled some 14 gauge through so it was kind of thin as well. And I'm going to use this as the border on the outside and the inside. And then I think we'll add some little balls in there and the other pieces, and then we'll put some bails on it. And like I said, I've pre-made a few things. My bezel for that is pre-made. If you want to see how to make just a little bezel like this, I'll put a link to a video right up there. That's going to hang kind of right from there. So I'll put that back in the pickle in a minute. But for now, I think I like this shape a little bit better. So I think I'm going to make it about that long. Okay, so let's file those in. I think I want to make sure it's pretty symmetrical at this stage. Like I said, this is 14 gauge wire that I ran through the rolling mill, and then I annealed it to soften it back up If you've never done annealing, it's where you take the metal to kind of the reddish, dull red color and let it cool off, and that takes all the work hardening out of it, or a lot of it. So, alright, so now I got to get this to fit kind of right along the edge there, so I'm going to, I guess, in order to get it kind of a round shape, we can start with a ring mandrel maybe. So I think I'm going to cut this off so it sticks out over the edge just a little bit. I think I might do, because it's kind of hard to get it to line up on the edge, I might just use a little tiny bit of solder to tack it in place on the end here, and then I'll be able to line those up better, and then I can add some more solder to it, I think. So let's try that. If you've never seen one of my videos before, I use hard silver sheet solder and a spray-on flux called My-T-Flux. And I do a lot of pick soldering, so you'll see me be doing that. That's one of those skills that I've found that has moved me up a few levels in silversmithing wise. And so you might check it out. I'll put a link to my pick soldering video right there. Try and use a really small piece of solder so we don't have a lot running along the whole seam here, because I don't have it perfectly lined up. So I'm probably just gonna, I got a little tiny ball of solder there, or I might even cut even smaller. Let's do that just to be safe. Alright, got it lined up pretty good along the edge there. Now I can use quite a bit of solder from the outside edge. The hard part about doing that tacking down was I wanted this laying along there pretty close to the edge, but I didn't want that solder to run that whole seam, which it has a tendency to. So I wanted to just barely flow and not flow very far. So I got it up to soldering temperature and then quickly back to the way when it melted. Let's try another method this time. Let's sweat a little bit of solder onto the back of this here, so it's already in place, and then I'll lean it on that one spot and see if we can do the same thing as we did last time. So, you gonna stay on or not? Guess we'll find out. We used to do some Western shows occasionally, my friend and I. And so occasionally I would make kind of Western themed things. Made horseshoe earrings and things like that before. That's looking. I've made a few, of course, kind of profile pieces. I made for my Patreon members, for one of their exclusive videos, I made it's called a snaffle bit. It's got a split bit that's connected in the middle. And I made a little bracelet with that as the top part of the bracelet. I'll put a picture in this video so you can see it. It doesn't have to be perfect, I don't suppose, but we want a nice groove there to put the nails in, which are going to be just little silver balls. Got that. I'm going to flatten this out a little bit so it's not so deep. So I did a little filing to get it down like that. I tried to shape it a little better. I need to put the little, if you look at the picture, it's going to have a little bar sticking up right there and on the ends. That's a little bit raised from the rest of it. So I'm just going to put those on next. I had some more of this just flattened wire that I was going to use. Same stuff I used for the bottom. And this is called a magnesia block, if you haven't seen one of these before. They are kind of cool. They have a soft surface so you can push things into them, and it allows you to kind of keep things where you want them to be sometimes. Like if I want these to be up against here, kind of push them into the pad a little bit. That other one go, there it is. Okay, now I'm going to make some little tiny balls. Let's see if we can get a good size for them. Let's try those and see how those look. Pretty good looking size, actually. Okay, so for the little bail on the back, I'm going to, I think I might as well use some of this stuff. This will work just fine. So, let's cut off. So I'm just making kind of a staple shape of these. Try and get them about the same. Pretty close. So I'm going to be running a chain through these, so they need to be wide enough for a chain to go through. I'm going to sweat a little bit of solder on the bottom of each of them. And then alright, so theoretically, there's solder there already. I just need to flux this and get this hot enough to flow again. double check and let it pickle for a while I might take a break and have some dinner. Come back and finish those other two. Okay, had a little dinner. Before I sat down here, I went ahead and marked kind of the center point, and I figure that's about where those curves start bending up if I use this for the outside of that. But the other thing is I wanted to taper these a little bit, so I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time filing. So. Okay, you can see I just put a little slight taper on it. Now I need to get this thing to bend, and it's pretty thick, so I think I'm going to kind of hold it on the edge of my little anvil surface and just use my plastic hammer to silly that I didn't think of that in the first place. Now we got to kind of get it to curve a little bit outwards. So, okay, so now we got to get it to bend back outwards in a nice curve. So how do I do that? Well, I think first I need to cut this off so it's a little bit more even. So I'm going to go do that real quick. Get those ends evened up a little bit. So now I need to get this to bend back the other direction a little bit up here. In order to get some good leverage, I think I'm going to have to grab it with these things, that, and then I should have a little torque there like that. See how it kind of curved it just a little bit like that? See if I can do the same thing on this side. These are bail making pliers. I haven't seen those before. Trying to get everything kind of lined up. I think my next step is I want there to be kind of like what looks like a little piece of leather that kind of goes around the inside. So I'm going to use some thin sheet that kind of lays over the top of that. Maybe a little bit thinner than this. Just a little bit of 26 maybe. Let's try that. All right. I'm going to sweat a little solder on the inside of this here. Right there. All right, got it kind of tacked down. I go ahead and pull this edge down like that. This one too. I think this will work, but we'll see. I'm going to use my little chasing hammer. I'm going to hammer this one down. handmade look. Alright, so I cut a piece of 18 gauge sheet here, which I think I'll use for the top of the thing. But before we do that, I need to file this flat. You could do it'd be kind of fun if you drilled a hole on either side and ran just some round, some 14 gauge or 12 gauge round or something, and kind of riveted it in there so you have a swinging kind of hinge like one. That'd be kind of cool too. This one's a little simpler than that, so there's a lot of ways you can do things like this. And then I'll just put a couple of pieces on the inside. You know what? I'm going to make a little ball and solder right at the center of that while I'm here. I'm going to trim this off and get it ready for a bail that's going to come on top of here. So look, what I did was I filed a little notch in here that's just as wide as this thing, and I cut a little loop of this stuff, which was the thinner pattern wire. So I'm going to just put it over that, pull it up to where it's flush on there like that. I'm going to let that one pickle for a while. And we'll move on to the last one with the horse portraits. So I got a little ahead of myself when I started doing this, but things that I'm going to be doing over and over again here are basically cutting little pieces of wire and piecing them together. And some of it I'll show you, some of it I'm going to do off camera because it's going to take some time. And I'm probably going to have to take back breaks because I'm hunching over doing this. But you see I flattened this out and filed it to where it's kind of like a little flattish area like that. And other parts I just bent. There's going to be places where I file a notch into things so I can make a sharper bend. But basically you got to start somewhere, and I started on this particular piece here, and then I'll just start adding things on. I'll probably work my way up his nose a little bit here and see what I could do next. So we need a little bit going in there, and then it comes out to the outside. Kind of like that. And then make a slight curve that way. So it really kind of goes to about right about there. I'm going to put some little marker marks here so that I get things in the right place. I'll go ahead and solder that way. See how it goes. Use pretty small pieces of solder for these. Not sure we actually got a solder joint over here. I'm going to come back to the eye. I'm going to go ahead and do this one right here. Let's do a couple of curls up here over his head. Really sharp curls. Let's do it like this. Let's go angle at the end. If we want a nice little main curl here, I may just do a single one up here. I had a double one, but it's kind of hard to get in this little tiny space. I need an ear to go around that little thing, and another ear. This one should be straighter. I curved him. I think I'm going to put a little horse ear on top of this one, and another one coming off like that, and solder those on and see how it goes. I'm just going to keep adding stuff like this, so I'll bring you back in a few minutes when I've accomplished a little bit more. You can see I'm making some progress here. I'll put this guy in here now. It's mostly just cutting, filing, soldering little pieces together, cutting, filing, soldering little pieces together, over and over again until you get the shapes and the pieces that you want. I have to have an equestrian tell me whether I succeeded or not here. This piece goes from here down here and goes underneath that just a little bit, so let's get that soldered on. was kind of hoping that would slump a little like that. Make sure everything's attached. Sometimes if you overlap things a little bit, it makes it look a little more 3D. Okay, so I need to make, I improvised a little bit on the mane here because I had some tight stuff that I couldn't really do with that thick a wire. But I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to make kind of a little eye shape out of some wire here. Okay, I need to add a loop on the top for the bail. If you want to see the kind of bail I'm going to make, I'll put a link right up there for some real nice, simple bails that are end up looking pretty nice. All right, let's find a little 14 gauge. Alright, so I'm going to make that bail and then show you at the end what they look like. We got our little horseshoe. So I was making a little bigger stature there. That'll go on the chain that goes in between there. We got our little stirrup. A little bit bigger than the one that I had shown there. The horse is pretty close though. I think it came out pretty good. So I'll take some better pictures and put them at the end. Well, that was a horse theme piece video. Hope you enjoyed that. May revisit that at some point in the future and do a part 2. If you did enjoy it though, make sure to hit the like button. That really helps out a lot. So I'd love to hear what you have to think about it. Leave a comment if you want. And don't forget to check out some of my other videos on the channel. I have over 220 videos now, so I've been producing them at 3 per week for the past 1.5 years or so. And my videos come out on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays generally. So view a few of those, make sure to subscribe, and don't forget to check out the video description down below. There's all sorts of relevant links to my channel, my website, my merch store. You can buy me a coffee there if you just want to tip me for my time. And there's a link to my Patreon stuff too. So check it out. Thanks for coming. Happy silversmithing. Take care.